Oh, hello, dailyish blog. It's rather late on Wednesday night. I'm quite sleepy at the moment. Hammering down some pizza, you know, dinner of champions. And today, I wanted to talk about. Let's talk about groups, since I was just talking about groups. So basically, some groups are real. So like, there's zebra and there's horses, right? So you might ask yourself, what makes these groupings real? Well, these groupings, otherwise known as species, are real and important because uh, both of those species, aforementioned, are incapable of reproducing offspring that they themselves are capable of reproducing. So, like if a lion and a tiger get together, they make a liger. Liger's a real thing, but that's where it ends because ligers can't reproduce with one another. They don't produce gametes specifically. Okay, so those groups are real. Let's talk about groups that aren't real. So, Americans and Mexicans. Let's do that. So we call ourselves that because of the country in which we live. But to what extent is that label real? In other words, is there any real difference between Americans and Mexicans? I would say that there would be little or absolutely no evidence to support that those groupings are grounded in some reality, some objective reality, right? Subjectively, those labels make sense because, the political map and such, but they have no real basis in reality. So if both of those governments dissolved, those groupings would be meaningless. That's how you know that they're not real groups. So they fall apart pretty quickly. I'm not going to get too much into it because I want to keep this one relatively short. But that's my thought for the day. So there are real groups, and then there are groups that aren't real. And those groups that aren't real only matter to the extent that they affect the people who are being grouped, right? So if you had like 20, horses, and you thought to yourself, I'm gonna have to group these horses. So, you took, I don't know, the horses that were larger than 5.5 feet, and then the horses that weren't that large, right? You put them into separate groups. Groupings don't matter as long as you don't, treat those horses differently, because ultimately the size of the horse is a grouping that's based in reality, but if you're treating them differently as a result, that's where the line is, right? And here's the thing, if you start breeding those horses, they're going to make horses of all sizes, because I'd be hard pressed to say that whatever genes you thought you were isolating by separating that way, you'll quickly find that unless you are, and this is actually another real thing, it's called artificial selection. That's for another day, right? That's where we get all these dog breeds that can interbreed with one another. They're not real species. That's why we call them breeds. But we did that, versus something like humankind itself. In other words, that evolved naturally, natural selection versus artificial. So again, that's for another day. And some groupings are real. So the way Linnaeus, for example, divided species into the various kingdoms and phyla, he was one of the first to do that. Anyways, that will also be another topic for another day. I myself am very much into science, so I'm sure a bulk of these video blogs will cover some scientific principle. Generally grounds my arguments and opinions in objective reality. That's the difference between an opinion and an inference. But that's probably for another day as well. Anyways, I will see you guys tomorrow. It's supposed to be a hot one. Today I was wearing a hat all day. That's why my hair, I'm rocking the flat hair. It's quite hot. Got to keep it out of your eyes. It's the closest star. Some would say it's the most important. Another day. Bye.